about 10, 15 minutes passes, and then the door slides open, and Mina is accompanied by a stern, hulking individual. Not the hulkingest. It's not Gothak. It is Cavis Robintero.
Oh.
She slides the door closed behind them, and she says, "Forgive me. I had a feeling that you would be coming at some point. I had been told that to send word if it happened. It's just, yeah, well, it concerns me. I don't think you're really welcome in the city."
Yeah, we got that impression when we realized that, we may not be the reason that things are changed in the city.
She says, "Well, yeah, I think you are the reason. It's been both good and bad. I don't know if you saw on your way in, but you probably didn't notice any of Witwer's mercenaries walking about. And that's been good. That's been good for the people. They're still having to pay higher taxes than they should, but they feel a little bit less like they're under constant watch. But the reason there's none left on the streets is because Witwer's got them all holed up at his place. It seems that a threat on his life occurred that I would know nothing about, obviously. And he's taken to staying in his house ever since. We haven't really heard about him leaving much, although Cavis here would know better than I," and she gestures at him, and he kind of looks over the group, and he still has that same gruff exterior, but it has softened a bit since the first time you met him.
Did you get my letters, Cavis? Oh, this is awkward. I sent you a multi-point letter, not knowing I would see you just a few hours later.
Well, I'll be sure to look forward to it, I guess. What was in it?
Oh, gosh. Maybe we can catch up later. Looking for families, the Roveris and Carr families, giving you an update, hoping to hear more about Sophia, making sure she's okay. There was one other thing, right? Am I missing?
And I wrote it.
Karash wrote it, so if there's any misspellings, that was him. But
There would be no misspellings. Very firm.
Well, I'll wait for it with bated breath then, I suppose. We can always speak on it later, but I am in town for business, so I suppose we should get to it, yes?
Yes,
by all
please do.
means, we have to get back for the trial pretty soon here, so how can we help here?
Well, it's up to you and how much you want to get involved, I suppose. I know from the Crusaders that have been in and out of the city over the last couple of weeks that what Mina says is true, that Witwer has, to the best of anyone's knowledge, not left the city. If he has some means of doing so that doesn't involve walking outside of his walls, there may be some possibilities, but no one has seen him on the exterior of his mansion since somebody came and tried to kill him.
So how can we help? Do we need to finish the job? It seems awfully forward, but...
Well, the Empress has tasked me with acquiring Witwer Thorogood so that he can testify during Faust's trial. We got word that he had been working with him in some capacity maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I've been trying to follow up on it. It was more of just a side lead until the plan came forward to arrest Faust himself, and then once he was successfully arrested, it moved the timetable up quite a bit. So I don't know exactly what situation we're dealing with. I've tried to have a look from a couple of different vantage points without giving myself away, but I do cast kind of a tall shadow. Didn't want to get myself too close and raise suspicion, but I also have not seen any of Faust's mercenaries since I've been back in the town over the last couple days, and that concerns me a little bit.
Let me ask an obvious question, just so we're all on the same page here. What is stopping you, under orders from the Empress, to just walk up to Faust's home and demand that he go with you for the trial? He is a citizen of this nation after all, isn't he?
We don't expect that he would come along willingly. And my men are spread thin on this side of the continent, as I told you before. There's too many fires to put it out and not enough people. Now, we could bring more over here if necessary, and we were prepared to do so closer to the trial if we were left with no other option, but we thought maybe there might be a way to do it without attracting so much attention and putting people at risk.
Ah, I see. That was another one of my questions. So, Well, great. I mean, we're here to help. We and I, admittedly, set out against Witwer Thorogood to improve the state of this city, so I would very much like to see that goal taken through to conclusion.
Well,
Did you
go ahead.
have a plan of attack, Cavis? Any strategies so far? Or were you just waiting for backup?
I have a couple of ideas, but nothing I'm really confident in yet. I'm mostly concerned about not knowing how many people might be within the manor. From what Mina was telling me, there could be as many as a couple dozen guard under his employ, and if he's marshaled all of them to protect himself, then that's going to be quite a crowd to get through.
And we can confirm that they're in there, yes? You've seen movement or people on the inside?
He says, no, I mean, you're familiar with the tall wall outside of his manor that only has that archway entrance, and there are still guards posted outside of that, but I didn't want to get any closer without risking being detected. You have to understand, if he were to see me, he would probably know that something was up. And what I mean by that is, I don't necessarily come on official business unless it's something big. So I've tried to keep my presence in this town to a minimum. It's possible he's heard word that I'm here, but since his mercenaries are not patrolling the streets, I'm hoping that if I don't call too much attention, that at the very least, even if he does hear I'm here, he won't assume it's for him.
My concern is he's not in the home at all.
Agreed.
I'm sure you read the report, Cavis, but we took a shot at him and the bullet phased right through. Now, I don't know all about magic. I don't know if that means he has to be in a close proximity or not, but that's something to consider. And if he's not there, does that mean he could be bringing us in for a trap?
I think it's possible that any approach we take is a threat of walking into a trap to some extent. From what I know of the man Witwer Thorogood, he's not the most powerful or the most magically attuned, but he loves nothing if not a good game for sport. And while I don't fault you for the attempt you took, I do wonder how much he's willing to play anymore and how much he's actually serious now. A man like him, I don't know, he's the most dangerous if you have his back against the wall, and he wasn't prepared last time. I just get the feeling he will be this time. As to whether or not he's there, my best intel says he is, but you're right, it's possible that he has some trick up his sleeve or some magic at his disposal where he doesn't have to be. My limited understanding of it, just from some of the other folks I know who are gifted in magic, is that someone on his level would probably have to be somewhere in the area. But he could be doing it from somewhere in the house. He could be doing it from somewhere inside the city. I think he has to be within the city limits somewhere, unless he's not here at all.
Well, you know what? Good. He's done playing games. That's fine. That means we're at the end point. One way or another, this is going to end with this operation. And I'm very much in favor of that. How many men do you have, Cavis?
Says, well, depends on how long you're willing to wait, but with time of the essence, I mean, we could get maybe a half dozen. More than that would take additional time. Crusaders don't exactly get the luxury of teleportation circles like some of the royal family does, and you yourself. I could make the arrangements, but it's also a question of how many I'm willing to risk and not have them with coverage elsewhere right now. Times are a little frayed at the moment.
That's why I would be curious to hear what you think, Tessian, but that's why I think don't bring them from other places. Don't stretch those forces thin. Let's try to take care of this ourselves with whatever men or manpower you have here now.
We may be able to find allies in the city as well.
Perhaps,
many-
but I don't know that we should be bringing the populace into this. This is something for the nobles to handle on our own time and on our own way. I honestly think we should go in there, like Isaac said. At the very least, me or someone we need to go in there and give him a chance to turn himself in. I don't think he'll take it. But I say we do it the right way. We let him know that he's wanted by the Empress. It's his responsibility to go before her. He can come willingly, or we can force him to.
How many of his men are in the not mention what property? I can't think of the word.
Mansion.
Mansion?
It is a
Mansion.
mansion. Yeah,
Callus, you
many?
said dozens?
a couple dozen. Yeah, that was how many men were under his employ. And
Then
none
they're
of them are
all
on the
there,
streets,
okay.
so their most likely spot is all inside the manor.
Yeah, we would need significantly more than dozens to try and take a stronghold. That is not going to go well.
Kava says, so you've interacted with Witwer in the past to varying degrees. And I know, obviously, it didn't necessarily go the way you were hoping it would, but was there anything that you got from your time with him that we could use against him? I mean, you were inside the manor, yes? Is there some weakness we could exploit, or something about the man himself that you know that we could put to our advantage?
Well, we didn't discern any secret passages into the manor itself. We found a way to, if I'm correct in this, circumvent the wall. Might be of use. But he also might have fortified that now. He's a shrewd businessman. Even when he, I think, kind of suspected something was up, he still went through the due diligence with the business plan that Tessian offered up. So beyond that, I don't know. You said it yourself. He likes to play games. He seems to have the fun in the game itself.
He says, so there was a arrangement of sorts between you?
Yes, we were going to trade. God, it was lumber.
Yeah.
We were gonna buy lumber from him, right? Falstock had a lot of lumber.
I believe so.
Yeah. We were bargaining for my family to purchase lumber from him here in Falstock, but I mean, the plan was never really going to go through. It was all something of a cascade. At the very least, I haven't really discussed it, all the details with my mother. We could always use wood, of course, but it's not high on our list of priorities, to be honest. But I'm not sure that's useful in this case. I don't know. I worry that he is simply not going to be present again like last time. He's going to use tricks and illusions to throw us off for where he is, which is why I almost think we're better off trying to intimidate him into coming forward, maybe even provide him a way to flip on Faust Dryden, or give us information, bargain with him. He's a man that likes bargains and deals, things in his favor. I think if we try to use this by force, we could be in for quite a fight. I'm willing to fight that fight, but it's probably much easier if we simply try to convince him that it's in his benefit to come forward and tell us everything he knows.
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I agree with Tessie, and I want to be careful what terms we deliver, because I don't want to help enable Thorogood to continue his corrupt ways, but going against this kind of manpower and without really knowing the situation, and I mean, to resist arrest is tantamount to declaring war on the Empress. I have a hard time believing that's the route he's going to go either.
And if he's dead, he can't give us anything. Now, obviously we don't want him to know that, and if we have to kill him, the town will be better off without him. But ideally we get him back alive and we can get some information out of him. The goal is to get him to testify, of course. I don't know. I don't know if that's the best option, but it's the one that I'm leaning towards, at least.
Well, I did talk to the Empress briefly yesterday, And I think at this point, she is close to tipping the scales. Maybe capturing Faust has emboldened her to some extent, but I think she's ready to start removing filth like Witwer Thorogood from their seat of power. 2 weeks ago, I don't think she would have condoned a plan where Witwer ended up dead. I don't think she would have minded it if your first mission had succeeded, but now, if he were to resist, if he were to fight back, I think she would be okay with any casualties that might result from it. But I agree, I don't know if a frontal assault is the best approach. A few men don't worry me, but that many, and they seem to be decently well trained, that's a lot of sharp objects to avoid.
I say we call a parley and get him into a spot that doesn't put us in too much danger, so that if fighting does break out, we're not surrounded. I can go up to a vantage point and offer some support there, or whatever we need, but I think this might be the way we need to go about this. As members of Lena's order and the undertakers of the Conatus, it is probably better to try diplomacy whenever possible.
Lena, your thoughts?
Yes, what does the Fable deer think?
I think for a moment and I say, well, I think we already tried the surprise attack last time and it was almost successful, but I think in light of that and the results, going in with diplomacy, giving him a chance to turn himself in light of the Empress wanting him to testify, that's probably our best option. If fighting results from that, then I suppose we'll have to be prepared, but I think we need to try a different approach, and I think this is the best option we have.
Being beyond reproach in this case, I think, is not bad. We remove any ground he has to stand on if we go the right way and he calls for an attack. If we attack first, well, there's ways that he can manipulate that to his benefit.
Yes.
Agreed. The real question is, what's the best way to contact him? We could send a letter, a representative.
I may have opinion on this. Let me try grammar again. I do not think it is wise to send show that we are afraid of him if we are going to be demonstrating our strength. If we are strong, we can show them that we are strong, but if we look like we are hiding, then they may not.
So you're trying to say we should all go together, Karash? Put up a strong
We-
front.
We should march up there and demand to see him. That's what you're saying.
No. I do not think it is smart to walk into the building like that, but that I guess is a good bluff.
Well,
Well,
not walk
how-
into the building, but I think I'm following you, Karash. We go together. We ask to speak to Witwer Thorogood, and we tell him what our terms are.
I mean that pretty much yes.
Now, Kavis, the one part I think that we're glazing over is what do we actually have to offer Witwer Thorogood that would convince him to comply with us?
That's the part that concerns me as well, because I don't know if we have any means of luring him out. It almost seems like we have to meet him on his terms. Unless there's something you guys have to offer or something that would be of interest to him, but it seems like our meeting point has to be there. And if that's the case, I think Karash is right. We almost have to stick together. Sending over one person to deliver a message just puts that one person at risk if he doesn't like the message.
That is not so.
Well, I mean, an example of what we could offer him, and it would take the Empress's compliance as well, is like a promise to allow him to rule the city in the way that he sees fit without repercussion. That's an example. I hope it doesn't come to that, but these are the lines that I'm thinking.
He kind of nods. He says, it could be something. I don't know if the Empress would go for it, but I could get in contact with her and see. The problem is, I think Witwer already sees himself in that position in this city. This stupid system of installing nobles has put a few people like him in place where there haven't been repercussions to this point. And maybe that's about to change, but Witwer doesn't know that yet.
Well, maybe I'm overthinking it then. What if we just say immunity from being imprisoned for ways that he will surely implicate himself in whatever he testifies against my father for?
Correct. We offer the man two choices. We say, you can either come to Waychester and assist us in pinning Faust right into the wall, so to speak, and if he chooses not to do that, then he can come with us in cuffs, and we can force our hand. He can either be an enemy, is what I'm saying. He can either be an enemy of the state or an ally. One of those would look better on him in history's book. I think he's the sort of man that if we play to his ego, it might work in our favor.
You could be
I
right.
agree. If it's going to devolve into a fight anyways, at least we tried.
I think we have to play it up as much as possible. The ego point is a good one. Anything that appeals to his sense of self-importance. So perhaps we overpromise a little bit. I don't want to offer anything that I'm not comfortable thinking the Empress would, but maybe a little exaggeration or a little white lie wouldn't hurt.
Yes, I assure you, a diplomat's tongue can promise a great many things that would never really happen. I've been inside this man's house. I can assure you, opulence is something that he cherishes to a great degree. I think if we can simply bestow upon him the prestige of being one of the crucial witnesses in ridding our fair empire of someone like Faust, I think that might paint him as the hero. And if we can convince him of such, I think he'd be more than willing to help us out.
He kind of gives a pointed look to Isaac at this point, Cavus does, and he says, so I think you're right, and this may be our best course of action, but if he has been working with Faust, as the rumors say, do you think this offer will do nothing for him? Is there anything that you would know about their potential relationship? What your father could see in him to be useful to him? Any approach that we could take that might give us another in? Because if Faust has already gotten to him, testifying against him may not be something that Witwer is interested in.
That's a good point. It's hard to say. My father has tendrils everywhere. For every one you see, there's probably 10 that you don't, and if you're seeing one, he probably wants you to see it. It's the whole thing. Speaking of games, it's all just a giant game to him as well. I don't know. It's something we can plan for. I don't know. Lena, Tessian, even Karash, what do you think?
Is there a way that we could try to turn him against your father? Reveal to him some of the information and the plans that your father was working on that we're confident he wouldn't know? I mean, we don't need to show him the designs for his miniaturized mana cannon or the ship itself, but if we were to say, let him know A simple, were you aware that he was building weapons that could level your entire mansion? Did you know that he was planning on using that kind of power? Downside, if he was aware, it won't work. Plus side, if he wasn't aware, then it'll show that Faust didn't trust him very much either, which could play into our hand.
We have evidence. I mean, yeah, I think that's a great plan. I think this is the course of action we should absolutely take. My question now that I'm thinking about it, although I value Karash's input of a unified front, I did try to put a bullet in his head. I'm wondering if I'm better off supporting from a distance than up front in the diplomacy lines.
Didn't you have the mask on last time?
I did.
I thought you took it off at the end.
I also thought you took it off.
And let's be honest, if he didn't know who it was at the time, I'm sure he does now. I trust his spies to have gotten him that information by now.
That's a fair point. Perhaps this is something that you need to sit out on. Perhaps someplace close by? I don't know. Your guns have quite a range, but I don't know if it's that good.
How close is the top of the wall to the house?
Its nearest point near the corners, maybe 125 feet.
Yeah. I don't have that range. It's just outside my range, but it's still bad.
There's a decent-sized courtyard, and you remember this from
Yeah.
sneaking out of that shed that had access to the sewers and kind of hiding in the hedges like Ocarina of Time to get in the first time.
I don't want to evoke her like this, but he knew that there were 5 of us. We're going in with 4. Does it have to be this 4? Can you... Grail was, ironically, the best one for this, but could you make me look like Grail? Any illusion that could do the trick?
I don't possess such magic.
Could put you in a dress.
Yeah.
Let's go see the dawn.
Of course it would work where she was the one who was good at that.
The Empress did tell me what happened, by the way, and I'm sorry to hear it.
Thank you for that. Now Isaac's sad.
Aww.
I don't know. Then I would rather be there, take a chance on the diplomacy, than not be there and be missing for if you need me. So let's just go together. I think Tessian should take the lead. He did seem to have a fondness for you, if that was you reminded him of himself, or he just liked the power that your family has. I don't know, but it might be worth pushing that.
I mean, believe it or not, some people do just like me, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Mina kind of chimes in at this point for the first time. She's just been listening quietly for the most part. She says, "So this is an all or nothing play then, right?"
Basically, if he turns down the offer and resorts to violence, it'll get ugly fast, and we'll have to simply sort through the ashes when everything's done.
Gothak and myself tried to stay uninvolved last time because we were worried about blowback on not just ourselves, but the people who depend on us in the city. If there's going to be either Witwer Thorogood removed from the city for the time being, or permanently, or, God forbid, something happens, but at least you try, is there anything the people of the city can do to help? I'm not saying we want to use them in a way that puts them at risk, but there are a lot of people here who are not fans of Witwer Thorogood. Is there anything that they could be used for to help? Gothak might also lend his services if you asked. Again, if there's no fear of reprisal, and he's not going to lose all of his business connections and potentially be run out of the city or killed or worse, there'll be another potential strong ally at your disposal if this is indeed going to be the play where you go all in.
The best I can think of is, well, this is a double-edged sword. If we were to do something like use everyone, create a distraction, so to speak, ruckus in the town, riot, something of the sort that would require his mercenaries to move out and deal with it. First of all, we'd have to know that he'd care, and second of all, it would be playing into the narrative that we are there to kill him, to weaken him. For our plan to work, ideally, without bloodshed, we need to go in up front where he is most secure and feels that he has all the power so that he can then give it up on his own free will. Which means I don't know that we have much that we can ask of the people of Falstock.
We're grateful for your and Gothic's help, to be sure. I just wish we had more time. If we could get the citizens to stop paying taxes, right? Stop giving Witwer Thorogood any money. We make him impotent as a ruler, or force his men out into the streets. Either way, it's a win-win for us. But we're on a deadline.
She says, well, I suppose I can get word to Gothak if you would like. I'm not much of a fighter myself, but I can at least make sure the people around here are taken care of.
I mean, we have 4 of us. Cavis. 6 men. You and Gothic. It's about half their number, but it's not bad.
And any supplies that Gothic might have that could aid us, I suppose, but I'm not sure that he'd have anything of that kind.
Well, he's going to probably be concerned, knowing him, with what this would mean for his business. Not that he wouldn't be happy to see Witwer go, don't get me wrong. He would trade that for a lot of things, but I'm sure he's also going to be curious about what this power vacuum means for his trade on this part of the region. Again, he would happily venture down that road as opposed to what we're doing now, but I do wonder how much he has at his disposal right now, especially with Witwer still putting the clamps on the city. But I'll ask him. He does well for himself. He may have a few things at his disposal.
I wish we had the Shaw to join us. Oh! Cavis, that's the last thing I wanted to ask you about. But, yes, I mean, I don't know. I would love to have more time to think of an ideal strategy. I know we're on the clock.
She says, well, if I seemed concerned when you entered the city, it was only because, well, I suppose selfishly I was a little worried about having you in my establishment again. But if the plan is to remove the seat of power and take away Witwer's influence over the city, then it doesn't matter quite so much. If he doesn't have anybody roaming the city for the time being, you can stay here. I'll send word to Gothak. We should know within the hour, and perhaps you can eat a quick meal and be ready to go after that on the house.
That's more than you have to do, and we appreciate it.
She gives you a nod. Cavis also nods. He says, well, you will have the blade of Cavis the Vigilant at your disposal. I hope not to have to use it, but I suppose the question is this. I hate to have to ask it, but I like to be prepared for just about anything if possible. What do we do if this goes wrong?
I've actually been thinking about that, and so how far is the gate, the archway from the manor?
150 feet or so.
So I'll just tell you just quickly, Isaac is thinking, can we do a thing where we go, it's just us, we talk to them, if it's with like refusing to go into the house. If things seem to go bad, we God, I was going to say we can run and draw the guards to us, and then they're bottlenecked in the archway. And then maybe we do get some of the citizens to have bows or whatever other things, even slings at that point would help. Then we're still serving as a shield so they can't get counterattacked. The problem is if we run away and then Witwer's like, okay, cool, and then all the men just retreat back in again, then we're right back to where we started. The issue of the clock is the main problem here. You know, do you see what I'm saying? So, which means if a fight does break out, we kind of need to try to see it through. Retreating kind of isn't an option here. The boss just gains all their HP back, for a video game metaphor.
Yeah, as soon as you drop aggro.
Yeah.
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 And that is true.
Worst tank ever.
Yeah, so I think we get...
I think we're going to have to play it by ear, to be honest. Because there's no use in us trying to plan out our tactics, especially scouting the outsides of the walls or anything of the sort, if he's just going to let us into his parlor. And if we have a discussion and it goes poorly, we're not going to know what kind of defenses he's got on the inside until we're there. I think we're just going to have to play this by ear, Cavus, despite my own uncertainty regarding that kind of plan.
What's nice, and what I would guess, is if we can keep our vantage point on the outside, if things do go bad, I think it's unlikely that it's going to immediately be R13 against all of their dozens. He's going to have some men on the attack force, but he's going to hold some back. He's too much of a coward to not have men around him at all times. Maybe fearing that we slipped someone to stealth in through the back or whatever. That helps our chances a little bit.
Which will you be joining us, Isaac?
I think so. There's no good way to go around. I could try to be that stealth person, but I just think it's of more use to be in with the front party, unless you disagree.
It's possible. I mean, you are the man that tried to take his life. But if you were to, and go with me on this one, apologize to him for your mistakes, to make him feel like the better person, that you underestimated him, that you should have seen your father was the true enemy. There are a number of ways that an apology from the man, begging from the man that tried to kill him, might appeal to Thorogood.
I would rather take a bunch of more electric shocks from you, but I think I can suck it up and convincingly play out that ruse. The apologetic son of the madmen just trying to make amends in a world that is now turned upside down for him. I could make that work, despite how painful it would be.
He also might demand your head as justice for what you did. I don't think we'll be agreeing to that sort of thing, but just fair warning.
We can cross that bridge when we come to it. If you have to turn me over for something to work, I expect you to come rescue me. Very soon after. Very soon. Immediately.
Yes.
Of course we would.
There was a time when I would have liked to have presented him your head myself, but I suppose you've grown on me a bit.
But now we're best buds.
And you punch his heavy plate armor, and you just hear a ringing noise that echoes in the soundproof chamber. That it's not soundproof inside, doesn't leak out, and it just kind of echoes throughout the room. And he looks down at you like, "What are you doing, boy?"
You have to laugh, right, or else.
All right, is that the plan?
I believe it is. Meals, maybe our last. I doubt it. And then to the mansion.
Yeah, it sure would be nice to. This would be the second time this week we've had what could have been our last meals. Not a great feeling, but I suppose that means we're doing something right if we're trying to make a change in this country.
Well, then as you guys eat a weary meal of sorts and prepare yourself as best you can, load the guns and check the weapons and blah, blah, blah. Mina says word for Gothak. We'll resolve that next time. But in theory, next time, the assault on Thorogood's Manor begins. If it is an assault. Who knows for sure. We'll see you next time on the Anachroschism.